Um, Hello, my name is Meredith Knox, and I did my final report on freshwater fish keeping um, and setting up and maintaining an aquarium. Um, the first three tanks here are my personal fish tanks, so I have quite a passion in this area, as well as I currently work as the head of the fish department at my current job, where I take care of fish at the store, as well as helping customers with their fish tanks as well. Um, which brings me into my purpose. Purpose of my final report is to create a comprehensive guide to starting up and maintaining freshwater fish tank. I help a lot of customers with the same issues and startup like troubleshooting things. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus in on in my report, is to help address these common issues that I hear from my customers. So that goes into my intended audience, which would be the fish customers at my store that come in and ask me about these commonly recurring issues with setting up their tanks, or like having problems with fish death and that kind of thing. So an overview of the problem, some of the common questions and issues that I focus on in my report. I kind of have broken down into three different topics. The first being tank startup, an appropriate tank size. So we want to make sure that my customers are choosing an appropriate tank size for the kind of fish that they want to have and the kind of scape that they want to do with their wood and their hardscape and plants and that kind of thing. Some fish also get very large or like to be schooling in groups, so you want to be sure you have a big enough tank to accommodate all the different things that you want in your tank. Then next I discussed the nitrogen cycle, which I think is probably the most important thing to learn about when having a fish tank, and the process of how fish waste and uneaten food accumulates in the tank and turns into or produces ammonia, and then the process by which denitrifying bacteria that live in your filter break that ammonia down into nitrite, and then further gets broken down into nitrate. Both ammonia and nitrite are toxic to your fish. So in a cycle tank, we want to see these at zero in terms of their concentration in the water. You will see nitrates in the tank, in a cycle tank, and these are not toxic at low concentrations, but at higher concentrations they are. So that's the purpose of doing a water change, which is my next point there, is to help remove some of those excess nitrates to keep them from building up to toxic levels. So that's, yeah, my next point of water changes. It's important to do them, I would say, at least weekly or bi-weekly, changing 25% of the water to take down the concentration of those nitrates and replenish the minerals in the water as well. If you do bi-weekly water changes, you do 50%. If you do once a week water changes, you do 25%. So you can kind of choose your schedule with how you maintain your fish tank as well. But you want to be sure that water changes are being done, which commonly I hear that the customers are not even aware that they should be doing that. So that's really important to focus on as well. As well are different water treatments. So like water conditioner is the first thing that we want to be sure that they're using, which dechlorinates tap water. So if you're using tap water with your fish, municipal water companies put chlorine in the water to make it safe for people to drink, but chlorine is not safe for fish, so you want to be sure that we are using a water conditioner to get the chlorine out. There are other water treatments as well for different things like nitrifying bacteria, quick starter, and like algae fix, and a whole bunch of different treatments. And then next we talk about common illnesses in the report, the most common being ick, I would say, for the application for my customers in the store. Ick is a protozoan parasitic infection. Generally arises due to stress, because as the fish is stressed, their immune system is lowered, so it makes them more susceptible to getting different infections. And ick usually is contagious, and left untreated usually is fatal to the fish. So want to give them the proper resources for dealing with that. Fin and tail rot and dropsy are different other diseases that I focus on as well as just general bacterial, fungal, and parasitic infection. But I also wanted to highlight in the report that these illnesses can be avoided being transmitted to your entire tank through the process of quarantining, which I emphasize as well as being important. And then lastly, our fish temperaments that I wanted to highlight: peaceful community fish versus semi-aggressive fish and aggressive fish. And the dynamic that having those fish together, you have to focus on to make sure that you have a peaceful environment for your fish in the tank. So my research approach: I have a personal and professional interest and experience with fish keeping, as well as I consulted my store manager, who has 30 years of experience in this area and dealing with customers and fish and their fish problems as well. And then I also took in feedback from my customers over these last few weeks, and seeing like what the most common issues that they were bringing to me were, and what I should make sure I focus on in my report. So as far as completed work, I've compiled research regarding all the major aspects of these issues brought to my attention by my customers, and I've completed my introduction and the body of my final report, and included all the resources for all the different topics I discussed. So for my preliminary findings, this is my diagram of the nitrogen cycle. So you can see that food is brought in, consumed by the fish, and then they excrete it in the form of waste, which turns into ammonia, and then into nitrites, and then into nitrates, which having live plants helps absorb some of those nitrates as well, so that's shown. And then as well as the nitrates being removed is in a water change. And this next visual I have is just a general fish compatibility chart, where you can kind of see what kinds of fish you can mix together in terms of what their temperaments are like. And as far as work remaining, I just have my final editing for my change of audience from the proposal. I did have it as just like a general to all general fish keepers and hobbyists, but now I have it narrowed down to customers that come into my job that I personally deal with, and I think that I could personally help with this report. And then I also have a peer who's going to review this for me as well before I submit it. Alrighty, thank you.